Watch your thoughts. They become words. Watch your words. They become actions. Watch your actions. They become habits. Watch your habits. They become character. Watch your character. It becomes your destiny. Lao Tzu. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jessica Disbrow, licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. I'm also the founder and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We're a small private practice in Lakewood, Colorado that offers holistic psychotherapy services for youth and adults. For more information about our practice, please visit us on the web at www.higherconsciousnesshealing.org. You're watching our live video blog that we air every Saturday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, where we talk about different mental health topics from a spiritual and scientific perspective. And today, we're talking about building self-awareness in the present moment. Why is self-awareness important? It's actually critical in resolving any problem that you have going on in yourself or your life. Because without that self-awareness and without being able to really critically judge and understand where we're at and where we're going, we can't make any changes appropriately. We're kind of lost and trying to solve the problem, but we're putting the wrong pieces together, and self-awareness just really resolves that. Let's look at why it's hard to be self-aware. Because that's another thing, is we have this level of unconsciousness as part of our brain function, right? Our body is doing all these things that we don't have to manage or think about or operate. All of that's unconscious. Well, it's actually doing a lot more than just telling our body what to do and how to function. Really what's going on is our brain at an early age becomes programmed by our childhood, by those experiences. And it sets up a set of patterns. And if we're not careful, those patterns just play themselves out as we're adults. And so our brain is trained to automatically play those programs from early childhood when certain things happen. I'm sure many of you have noticed that in your relationships or just your everyday life. Certain things will trigger you, and that's really a response from much earlier on that hasn't been resolved. In a lot of ways, it's a little scary to think about. We're a little bit like robots. We have this pre-programmed information and patterns, and then we just kind of play them out. And the problem with that is if we have a lot of negative stuff going on when we're young, and most of us do, and we have a lot of people telling us to repress our emotions, which most of us do, these things get all screwed up, and it just becomes very hard to have a healthy relationship with ourselves, others, and have a happy and successful life. So we're looking at ways to avoid those things by building in self-awareness. Now, I want to talk a little bit about free will for a second, because I think it's kind of an interesting thing that we're talking about. So we're talking about our unconscious mind that's running on this program developed in early childhood that we're not really fully aware of, and we don't necessarily have control over it. This is how addictions happen, is because we feel like we don't have control anymore over that habit. It's just become so ingrained. And that's kind of like what happens with these other brain patterns too. They're just so ingrained, we just react with them. They're just our natural reaction to stimulus around us. So we become a little bit like robots, And we don't want to be like robots, because that means we're not really living our full life. And people who are in this state of unconsciousness might feel like their life is going by really fast, might feel like they're just kind of on repeat all the time. years go by and they're like, whoa, how did that happen? They're not being present with themselves and their life, and they're just in that reactionary loop of patterns. So let's break that, because then you can actually start really living and start really experiencing things in a full way. And it all starts with building self-awareness in the present moment. My episode number 2 was, why is the present moment so important? It's just really critical to any change we want to make and any personal development we want to take on. So let's look at 7 ways to build self-awareness. The first one is to get present. And I covered that in my first episode quite a lot, but just as a quick recap, breathing is so good to bring our awareness to the present moment. I'm going to take a breath now. I hope you all can join me. I'm going to breathe in and then let it go. And just by doing that a few times, our body is already going into a calmer state. We're already being more present. We can start to be more self-aware and less reactionary. Another great one to bring us to the present moment is clapping. It might feel kind of silly, and you can clap louder and harder than that if you'd like, but it really gets our body with it, because we're using both sides of our body, and that rhythm, that clapping, kind of goes back very much to our tribal nature. We really respond to that vibration. So that helps get us in the present moment too. The next thing we can do is build a higher level of awareness. Now, remember I talked about in some other videos that we have our lower level of consciousness and then our higher level of consciousness, and it's actually kind of looks like that in the brain as well. Well, let's build kind of a higher level of consciousness, if you will, and have that consciousness kind of watch that lower consciousness that's making all the mental chatter that, kind of drives you a little crazy, the self-critic or the worrier, that voice you can't seem to turn off. Just build a higher level of awareness. That's all you need to do right now. Just watch, be accepting of what it's doing, non-judgmental, and we'll talk a little bit more in future episodes about how to turn down that voice. The third thing you can do, which is really great, meditation and mindfulness. Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. There's many studies out there that say meditation and mindfulness is amazing for our brain. It has all these great benefits, one of them being building self-awareness. So my suggestion to you is I want to empower you to decide how you want to go about your meditation and mindfulness journey. Check out YouTube. There's some awesome meditators who have great guided meditations. You can Google and do research on your own. If you're having trouble, there's troubleshooting guides out there for you. Really take it onto yourself to start building in some of those practices. Even 5 minutes of meditation a day when you first wake up can do wonders for building your self-awareness and building your ability to control your brain, essentially, is what you're doing. Number 4, reality testing. Now, that sounds really weird, right? Reality testing. It's like, well, I know what reality is, right? Well, because of our past programming, that's kind of a veil that we're seeing through. So we don't actually see reality in the same way that other people do, and we might all have very different ideas about what's going on. However, that's kind of great, because we can use each other to gain perspective. Because when it's just us, it's impossible to gain perspective because we don't have anything to compare it to. It's just one opinion, and there's just, it's difficult. So by getting other people's perspectives, by asking friends, family, coworkers, people that you trust, to give you reliable feedback about your behavior, about how they think you're doing. It's really remarkable how in tune the people that are around us are to our own mental state. almost more so than we are. So it's really good to ask and build that trust with someone else too. It's great. Number 4, writing. Especially if you are having trouble with that trust piece and don't feel comfortable asking other people for feedback yet, writing is really, really great. Any kind of journaling. You could do what I call free writing, which basically means you take a pen and paper and you put the pen to the paper and you just start writing for 15 minutes. Anything that comes to mind. And the point is to not take your pen off of the paper. So even if you write things like, I think this is dumb, I don't know what I'm going to get out of this, just keep writing and keep your pen on the paper for 15 minutes and you'll find that things kind of will unravel for you. Because that's how our brain operates. You know, we get stuck and frustrated and stressed. And so we kind of need to get that stress out. So you write a little bit like, oh, this is dumb, whatever. And then that kind of releases it and you're able to more easily free associate and make those mental connections and build awareness to things that you didn't even know were really bothering you. So that's a really great one to do. Creative writing can do that as well by writing a short fiction piece, if that's something that interests you, and just really let it flow through you and just write about whatever character comes to mind first, whatever situation you want to put them in. Just really let it go and really just write whatever comes to mind within a short story framework. And you'll find that after you finish the story, reread it, and you might find that there's symbols in the story that actually represent things that are going on for you that were kind of unconscious. So that's a really other cool tool to build in some self-awareness. Number 6, personality tests are actually really helpful. One really well-known one is the Myers-Briggs personality test, which you can easily take online. Just type in Myers-Briggs personality test. I think there's quite a popular website called 16 Personalities, so you could check them out. And that can be really helpful because you can kind of compare, again, like where do I stand with these different qualities of my personality and how I'm coming off to the world. And then number 7, I'd really recommend to keep a personal reflection log. This can be just little notes about how you're doing, the date that you've been working on these different self-awareness techniques. Who are you talking to? What can you do better? What's working? What's not? That kind of thing. And then, during meditation and talking to a trusted person, you can also do that personal reflection with them as well. All right, so that pretty much covers today's episode on building self-awareness in the present moment. I really thank you all for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, I'm going to give just the 30 seconds or so for people to write any of those in. And know that this is not like the end-all be-all list of building self-awareness techniques. I'm sure there's lots of them and different things work better for different people. So really weigh in how those 7 things sound to you and where you might want to start first. Perhaps some people are more inclined to start writing. Perhaps other people are more inclined to talk to a friend. Everybody's different. So find out where you kind of fall in that. And then just a quick reminder for higher consciousness healing, we are starting 2 new groups. One is starting this August. It's a spiritual support group for millennials. And then there's a 12-week group therapy that's going to be starting in the fall, also for millennials, where we'll be talking more in depth about a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing onto my show. So if you're interested in either of those, please check out our website. There's going to be more upcoming information, so stay tuned for that. All right, I don't see any questions or comments. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this episode, please like and share it with your friends and family on social media or however you want to connect. All right, until next time.